Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. It's back to school night here on the Squares, and we've got in the house today Mr. Steve Keeler showing off that brand spanking new shirt. What's up, Steve?
Sun Voyager just played my little beer release party, and thanks Pete and Scow were both on board, and with Sun Voyager, Geezer, and Mama Doom, we had a great time. Got a little sunburn, I'd say, that day, but
It was hot, man.
yeah, it was a hot.
It was hot.
We had some good
Summer's getting
beers
its
and
last
some barbecue, and yeah, it was a good day. Good day.
Did
We
you get a
also
little
got,
something to eat there?
Chris Canzaneri's in the house today, and Mr. Ryan Scow. So greetings, everybody. And like I said, it's back to school night. So this was a idea from one of our viewers, and they wanted to know like what songs bring back memories in us of going back to school. So either those songs that you liked that had to do with going back to school or going to school, or just songs that you listened to a lot back in, September, getting back together with your friends, maybe playing them on the ride into school or out in the parking lot or after school or whatever it might be, but just remind you of that kind of summer's over, back to school. These are the songs that bring us back to our high school years. So we've each picked out 5, and we'll go Steve, Chris, Ryan, myself, and then we'll go round and round till we get to our first picks or last picks or whatever it might be. So and I got Chris Allo's picks as well. He couldn't make it tonight, so during my turn I'll read both of ours. So Steve, what do you got first?
So we're going back. I'm the oldest guy on tonight, so I usually am the oldest guy here, but we're going back to the 70s here, and back when we had muscle cars, 8 tracks, and did a lot of skipping school in those muscle cars. And I tell you what, I'm not doing this in any particular order, but I'm telling a little story. I didn't really go by the rules tonight, but it's hard to pick 5 because there was a bunch of 8 tracks in these cars, and then a lot of them I'm just thinking of friends that before I had a car and we would ride around, and I'll tell a little story about that for honorable mentions maybe. But my number 1, I'm going backwards tonight, is Aerosmith Rocks. And you're going to shoot me because I forgot. I lost my notes right before this show because I just did a download. Aerosmith Rocks. Let me look at it real quick, and I will get you some songs off of that sucker. A song. I'm supposed to do a song. So
that's right.
1 song, Steve.
1? How about 5? No. But the story about the Aerosmith Rocks was, that was before I had my car, and I had one of those portable, those little square 8-track players. I had one of them, and I would totally just have that in that, walking to school and walking around the campus. I mean, I'm going to go with Last Child. I'm going to go with Combination off that album. I'm picking 2. So, but Aerosmith Rocks was something that was stuck in that little box. All my friends had cars already. I didn't. I'd get dropped off at school, and somehow I had that little box. It was like before boom boxes. It was Keeler hanging out in the neighborhood of Middletown and somebody's front lawn listening to Aerosmith Rocks and walking around, going to Dunkin' Donuts for lunch.
Yeah, that's right, for lunch, right?
Well, lunch, breakfast, whatever. We'd go down and get hot chocolate and strawberry frosted donuts. Still remember that from school.
Cool.
I hadn't been to school in a long time, and school and I did not get along.
So, Steve, what years were you in high school? Because you're right before.
I left high school in 1978. I did not graduate.
Okay.
And I went off.
I was
to
80
work
to 84, so I was right after you.
A few years, yeah. And I was supposed to graduate in 78. And I was given the option of leaving or getting kicked out, so I left.
All right.
And I was going to go back. Never went back. Opened the record store in 79. Rock and Roll Fantasy, which is, if you want to count that, my store is really old, but we didn't last too long, and we shut down, and I started doing fairs and flea markets. So Rock and Roll Fantasy, which turned into Rock Fantasy in 85.
There you go.
Showing how old I am tonight.
Old and wise, right, Steve?
Survivor.
Yep, there you go. All right, Cans, what do you got?
Okay, I kind of mixed a few, some with memories and some that were about school. If you want to go on every memory from school, there could be 300 freaking songs or from whatever. So one that I do have memories of, but isn't about anything that happened to me, is "The Hard Way" by the Kinks, which is from an album that's all about kids in school, which is not the greatest album, but this song kicks ass. And it's about a douchebag teacher who rails on the kids and torments them and tries to intimidate them, but it's still a pretty good song. So, and I think the version of it on their live album, One for the Road, is probably much better than the original album cut, but pretty cool song. So
that is a cool song. And it's funny, I didn't pick it today, but now that you mentioned it, I remember the live album came out. God, did that come out in the summer of like 80, summer of 80, right? And then I remember like going to school in September, and like me and a bunch of buddies, that's all we talked about for like the first month of school, how much we loved that Kinks live album. And I remember like shortly thereafter, like the Ozzy album came out like in early 81, and we were still talking about the Kinks, and everybody was like, the Kinks, forget those old guys, Ozzy, Randy, that's what you need to be listening to. I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Over with.
Yeah.
I still love it.
Yeah, I hear you. Good pick. All right, Ryan, what do you got?
So I'm the youngest one here. So I didn't pick any songs about school, but I just picked stuff that I listened to back in high school. And the number one band for me back then was hands down by a country fucking mile was Slayer. And the album I listened to the most, I think I listened to it every single day back then, and pretty much compared everything I heard to it. Like, that's just how it was back then. It's as heavy as this had to be Rain and Blood. So the first track, obviously, Angel of Death, kicks off the album. Just one of the greatest songs ever. We used to blast it at parties, blast it all the time. Fortunately, school in the 90s, you couldn't really play music during school. That got stamped out pretty quickly. But out in the parking lot, hanging out afterwards, parties, all that stuff. Slayer was the soundtrack to a lot of stuff. If I had any say in it, which I try to usually do. So yeah, I'm going with the Angel of Death from Slayer. That one reminds me of a lot of nonsense back then, a lot of foolishness.
And I thought you were going to pick Britney Spears.
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to pick Britney Spears. Although when I was in high school, that is when she first came around, and that's when she first got popular. So, but no. Surprisingly, she was not on my list.
Oh my goodness.
Or honorable mentions. Or
wow.
Picks. Yeah. Sorry to disappoint. I don't have any t-shirts from her either.
He does admit though of some kind of a relationship with it.
Oh, I saw her once.
Yeah, see, I thought.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll have to hear that one of these days.
All
right. So let me read Chris Allos first, and I'm gonna read his picks verbatim because he sent me like a little statement with each one of them. So his first pick, and he stuck to the whole school thing. So his first choice is "School" by Fear Factory, and he said this is a cover of the Nirvana song. Fear Factory covered as a secret bonus track on the Archetype album. He goes, I don't really know the original, but I love the cover version. And you can just picture Chris just shouting that out.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard it.
I must have, because I've heard Archetype a bunch of times.
I have too, but for whatever reason, I just doesn't.
I'm not familiar in my head with it. No.
And we don't have that version of it. Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Yeah. Cool.
I guess I'm going to look it up right now. You guys,
there you go.
Is it my turn already though?
Not yet. Let me give you.
Oh, you go.
So my first choice today, and this was a song that I actually heard for the first time after school. So what we did a lot of times is we would, after school, we'd get together at someone's house for a little bit, before we had to go home for dinner and all that kind of nonsense. So I was at my friend Al's house, and he lived not too far from the Goshen High School. And he goes, you got to hear this album I just got. And I was like, all right, cool. So there were a couple of us there, and he goes and he puts the needle down on the record, and you hear this kind of like scratchy shit, and you hear that, circus music, Heidi, hi ho, die hum, and then the big scream of Udo Dirk Schneider and Fast as a Shark by Accept from Restless and Wild. And that was probably the most talked about song in school amongst my group of friends for probably months. And Restless and Wild was one of the most played albums for me that year, that semester, whatever you call it back then. And I always think, every time I hear Fast as a Shark, I just remember being in his room that day, hearing that song for the first time. And I was kind of like, what in the world is this? And, I don't think I was ever the same. So yeah, Fast as a Shark by Accept from Restless and Wild is my first choice for today.
I can remember when that first came out, and doing the same thing as you, but probably on a cassette or something. Because I remember like going around, it's like, check this shit out. That's before I had the store. What was that, like 83?
Yeah, 83. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it was just so great. And then, then you dug back in and got Breaker and such great stuff. All right, so going backwards a little bit here, but I'm gonna go with number 2, and I got a tie because this is my buddy's. I'm telling stories, so I'm a storyteller. This is my buddy's like 68 Plymouth Roadrunner, 69, whatever it was, beat up a little bit, and we used to go just traveling all over in this car on days we were supposed to be in school. And I don't know which one got played more, but they're both by Deep Purple. It was Made in Japan and Made in Europe. They were both like, you'd hear it for days in there, like you wouldn't change it. And no one was complaining. I can remember like we'd scrounge up money for beer instead of lunch money. Our lunch money went to getting like Genesee cream ales. And but listen to those albums. Made in Japan, I'm just gonna pick Highway Star, Child in Time. Made in Europe, I'm going with a Lady Double Deal and You Fool No One. Just those 2 songs. I don't know how many times I heard them back in those days. I always think, even current, like I'm hanging out somewhere at a party or in a backyard or something, and still listening to Deep Purple and drinking a beer. How many years later,
Those are 2 great albums. Those were 2 of my most played live albums of my high school years, without a doubt.
Yeah, just and they were fairly new, especially Made in Europe was fairly new then. And
yeah.
I mean, we didn't have the studio albums on a lot of stuff. We had the live album, and that was it, because we didn't have money then. And that's what we listened to. I discovered some of the full albums much later on.
Yeah, because those live albums were like a greatest hits, right? Greatest hits live.
Yeah.
Genesee cream ale. I used, when I was a kid, man, we drank Jenny cream ale and Colt 45 all the time.
If you're gonna make me drink one of them now, I'm going with the cream ale still.
Well, I would agree with you on that one. Yeah, it's like, and then
I have not seen it.
It's the lesser of 2 evils with those 2.
Yeah, they're both bad, but yeah, the Colt 45, oof. But then
I still remember the shape of the bottle.
Yes, it was kind of round at the bottom, right? Yeah, like kind of weird shape, like a bowling pin or something. Like, yeah,
and people used to call them Jenny Screamers.
Yeah.
That's what happened to you after you spent a night drinking them.
The Screamers.
Yeah. Next morning.
Yeah, you remembered.
And we graduated from those to like Molson Golden. I remember at the time I thought Molson.
That was a big step up.
That beer was classy as shit.
Right, but if you had one lately, they're terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. We didn't know any better.
Molson Golden, huh?
$4 more a 6-pack. It must
it's
be good.
not the Molson Canadian, right?
They're all
Golden.
Yeah.
They both become pretty the Bud Lights of Canada.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, right.
My buddy brought some a couple of years ago. He brought some to my house. We were having a little get together, and I'm like, "Why'd you buy Molson?" He goes, "It's like the old times." And I opened one up, and I was like, "This is fucking terrible."
Some stuff is better left in the past. Yeah.
What about
absolutely?
From that time period? Do you remember Moosehead?
I absolutely do.
Moosehead was like a big deal at the time. I got a sign and everything. It's like
that's not good either.
Everybody wanted Moosehead. I don't even know if they make that one anymore.
They still make it. I've seen it. Yep. It's they've had Grizzly too. I used to drink Grizzly as well.
Oh yeah, Grizzly beer. Remember that one? Everyone was trying to make. Grizzly beer was like a fake Canadian beer. I think.
Yeah, it was not good.
That was brewed down here.
Steve, I'll just take a Rheingold if you can find one of those.
Oh, those were excellent. Remember those days?
Effective. Yep.
And that was delicious. No more Rheingold.
Remember when they used to have those at BB King's?
Oh yeah, that was nice.
Like in the city for a while, and those were good. They were good.
They're good
They're
though.
kind of like a Miller, like a High Life.
It was a high class Miller.
I will tell you, there is talking about like old man beers, right? So in Peekskill, there is a Italian restaurant bar named Gleason's, which is right around the corner from the Paramount Theater. So like every time I go to see a show at the Paramount, I go to Gleason's, and they usually have $3 cans of Schaefer, ice cold.
Wow.
You know what? They're good.
That's not a bad choice. I could drink that.
No.
I was at Beer King recently before one of my get-togethers here, and I hadn't been in there in a while to buy beer, and they have all that old man beer. They're like Schaefer 12 packs, and
They got Schlitz in there.
Schlitz is there, yeah, Peels.
Yes, all the gourmet stuff.
We have now changing the topic to all the viewers.
I know, right?
We're just going to talk about
Old style,
70s and 80s beer. How about Stroh's?
Brow.
Meisterbrow was like the Keystone Light of that era.
Yep. Hams, remember Hams, Utica Club, all that stuff. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Utica Club's still around. Rose that works for me, came from. I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. Rose that works in the store came from Utica, and she said that Utica Club is still a thing in Utica.
I drove right by it a couple months ago when I was up there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Hams, I think, is still out in the West Coast.
I think so.
Still around.
Anyway,
Yeah. Anyhow,
we
back to
digress.
music. Huh?
Back to music. All right, Chris.
But I digress.
Candy bars of the 70s for 500s.
Yeah. Well, okay. I really liked O. Henry's, and remember that marathon bar? It was like a rope.
Oh
Shit was
yeah,
good.
love that.
Mm.
Those were good.
Anyway, my next one. I already forgot what it was. Okay. 1980, sixth grade. I remember this guy bringing a little 8-track boombox dealie in, one speaker, and he put on Centerfold by the Jay Giles Band. And everybody reacted to that song. It was like, and I cannot hear that without thinking of standing in the lockers in the middle school. And I don't remember who the guy was, but like, listen to this shit. And everybody was like, yeah, this is great. And I was like, it's okay. But it's like inescapable. Can't separate the song from that memory. So
That was a big song.
it was huge.
Yeah, that was.
Blood run cold.
Yeah. That fun, Dan. Jay Giles was fun. I like most of their stuff. Yeah. Cool. All right. Ryan, back to you.
All right, so I'm another one band I discovered in high school, and I used to push on people a lot because this ended up being the first death metal band I ever got into. So, for me, it was new at the time. I was pretty young. I think I was in high school, but I think more freshman or sophomore year. And anytime we were hanging out with friends, I just pushed this band on people. And as far as death metal goes, it's pretty accessible and listenable. So the band was At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul, which was their final album at the time. So this was at the time new. It came out in '95, so it was pretty new.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go with the title track because it's just fucking awesome. But yeah, it's in hindsight, a lot of these riffs are pretty much ripping off Slayer. My young brain, I didn't really hear that, but as an adult, someone pointed it out to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're really a lot of those chord progressions are big on Jeff Hanneman, Kerry King. But yeah, I used to blast the shit out of this, harass people with it, play it in cars, play it at parties.
Still
Really,
good.
and actually, I went backwards because I got this first because this ended up being their biggest album, and then I got into their earlier stuff, which is also love it, but it's different, it's weirder, it's like a different style, and this one's kind of just straight up thrashy, heavy, simple, direct. You can sing along to it, very catchy, good, solid production. So I'm going with At the Gates from Sweden, who was first Scandinavian band I ever listened to too. So this opened a lot of doors for me hearing this for the first time.
I bet it did.
It was very influential, and I still think it's a great fucking album. So
They're on tour in the States right now. They just played. There was some big festival up in Worcester. I think it was over the weekend with a bunch of bands, and they were part of that. I think they were the only. They were like the only European band. I think that Anthrax. It was a bunch of tours like conglomerating. I don't know where it was exactly. They said it was outdoors. So it's by the Palladium, but outside somewhere.
I think they're playing in New York City soon, but it's a day. Actually, I think they might be playing that album, ironically enough. But I saw it. I just remember whatever day it was. It was like I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't get off or whatever it was. So I just put it out of memory. So, but yep, I love the shit out of that album. So I've seen him a couple of times, so I'm not too worried about it.
I like the new album a lot too. It's a lot different for them, but I love it.
That's pretty good.
A little proggy.
A little proggy. everybody
pride.
gets groggy from time to time. All right, Chris Allo's next pick is Teacher Teacher by 38 Special from the soundtrack to
Wow.
the film Teachers. So Chris says, I'm
Jeez.
sure that movie sucked, but man, that song is an earworm even after all these years.
God, I don't even know if I know it. I'd have to hear it again to remember it.
I know it. I'm not a huge. It's okay. I love 38 Special. I'm not a crazy fan of that song, but interesting pick for Mr. Allo. But,
That's a shocker
yeah.
coming out of him, man. I've never heard Chris Allen and 38 Special in the same sentence before.
No, I haven't.
Probably don't
I
ever hear
was
it again.
surprised.
May never.
All right, I'm going to go. A couple of mine are like parking lot songs, and as is this next one. So I always thought it was really cool because, especially when we started driving in, we would always get to school, to the parking lot a little bit early so we can hang out a little bit before school. And that was a good time to hop from like car to car and see what songs people are playing, right? And what albums people are playing. So the first time I ever heard this album by this American band was in my friend's car, and the album is Fire Down Under. The band is Riot, and the song, you can pick any song from this album, but I always really was drawn to Outlaw, which I think is just absolutely
one of the best songs.
Yeah. And I think I heard this album because we used to play like the same albums all the time for a couple of days, and then we switched to something else. And I remember I don't remember who the friend was. I had him make me a cassette copy of the album, and then I eventually went and bought it. But I remember listening to this over and over and over again, and it was just an anthem for the parking lot for whatever week that was. And Outlaw by Riot from Fire Down Under.
That's a great pick.
Yeah, I had that one.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Steve, back to you.
All right. Now, the next album I'm going to talk about is Black Sabbath Sabotage. Another one that did not leave the 8-track deck, probably even more in my car than theirs. I think that was something more that they would play because, you'd had certain friends back then that would just play the same albums. They'd have like 2 8-tracks. I had a good friend named Bill that dated this girl, Kathy. The only 8-track they would ever have was Cheap Trick live at Budokan. You would hear that over and over. If you went to Seaside Heights with them, you'd hear that over and over. You'd hear nothing else. You would know every minute of that thing. It's just I got thinking. That's why I want to do this episode, because I was thinking about school and the clique of friends I had, which wasn't huge, and what they would listen to. But Black Sabbath Sabotage, Symptom of the Universe, Hole in the Sky, a great record from back in those days. I still think maybe Sabbath's best. Even better than Never Say Die.
Oh, it's definitely better than Never Say Die, Steve.
I love Never Say Die. I love it more and more each day because you guys don't like it as much. I was listening to that again the other day, and when I just started feeling better, and I'm like, this album, I just like that. I like that whole spacey feel. I love Hard Road, all that stuff. That's another episode.
Fallow and I came on the show next week and said, "Hey, Steve, we finally discovered how great Never Say Die is. It's amazing." You'd be like, it really sucks. I've been pulling your leg all these years.
No, I wouldn't do that. I don't do it just because of you. I think it's just from the time period I discovered that record.
Yeah.
Listen, the memories from back then.
Air Dance, great song.
I love Air Dance. You don't like that, do you?
No, I love Air Dance.
You do? Like see? Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a great song. I'm never changing that opinion.
I like
always like it. It's my favorite song on the album.
I like the story. That's not your favorite song on the album.
Oh, I love that song. Yeah.
You like Junior's Eyes better.
That's good too. Yeah. I like that album. But
Johnny Blade.
Yep. I like the whole album.
Hard Road.
That's also on the album.
Yep. Anyhow, we're way off topic. Black Sabbath Sabotage for me.
Yeah, I like that pick. All right, cool. All right, Chris.
All right. This next one's from high school, and we didn't get to have parking lot songs like you did.
No.
At least I didn't. I went to Burke for my first 2 years for people who aren't from around here as a local Catholic high school. And they drove from all over the county, but I happened to live in the same town as the school. So I'd get to school. My bus with the local kids from my town would get there 45 minutes to an hour before the last kids from.
Wow.
So they'd stick us all in the cafeteria until everybody was there, and they had a jukebox in the cafeteria.
Mm.
And every single freaking day for the 2 years that I went there, somebody would play One Thing Leads to Another by the Fix.
Wow.
So whenever I hear that song, I'm taking just that bass line, that doom, doo, doo, doo. And I'm like, ow, I'm in that fucking shitty Catholic high school. And 14 again. And
Whether you want to be or not.
Yeah. But by the time I got to Goshen, Pete, if you drove to school, you had like 30 seconds to get from your car.
Dude, we ruined it for you.
Yeah.
We ruined
there was no hanging out at the car. And if you turned to somebody else who arrived at the same time you and said hi, they were like, get in the building. It's like, I was going to use that 3 extra seconds to smoke a bunch of weed and drink a few beers before I came in, but you got me again. But yeah, any time outside of the building was spent walking to and from your car, and that was it.
Yeah,
so we didn't. But
we ruined it. Yeah, it got in 83 and 84. It got a little out of hand, so I think they kind of stopped to that.
Yeah. Oh, you went to the same school, Pete?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Our high school didn't have any in the 70s here in Middletown. You couldn't hang out in your cars in the parking lot. You went to the car and you got out of the car and you went in. That way they had like a guard that would sit, his name was Willie, he had a Cadillac, and he'd sit at the thing, and then there was Mona and a couple other truant officers or whatever you want to call them. And we had to try to figure out how to get that car out of there. So my one friend figured out, well, you get Willie a bottle of like wine, a bottle of Ripple or something. He'd bring it to him. He didn't care. See it. Or you'd get something going on in the other parking lot, and then we'd go barrel assing out with our car, get out of there.
Barrel acid. I'm going to save that phrase.
Barrel assing out. Like a Dukes of Hazzard kind of scene, like a muscle car going.
I'm going to say that at least 3 times tomorrow at work. I don't care what I'm talking
barrel
about.
Ass.
Yeah, just barrel assing down the road.
Watch any 70s like.
Oh no, I already pictured it. Yeah, fishtailing around corners and an old Roadrunner. Yeah, just barrel assing around.
Michael, make sure you get that for the takeaways from tonight's episode. That's a good one.
I'm definitely using it.
All right, Ryan.
All right, so this is a real specific memory. It's 2 guys I was not really close friends with, hung out every now and then. I went to school. We were hanging out in one of their garages, drinking beer. I think it was 11th grade. And I was already little in the black metal. So I knew Emperor, I knew Satyricon, I think I knew Mayhem, but there was one Norwegian band I didn't know, but I would learn about that day. So he's like, check this out. So he puts this album on, and I'd never heard anything like it. It sounded like hell itself, just coming out of the speakers. It was raw. It was just insane. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And so he told me, and now it's became one of my favorite albums. But at the time, it was like, I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what to do with this. So the band was Dark Throne, and the album was Transylvanian Hunger, 1994. And I'm going to go with the title track. And if you ever heard this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just like this sonic wall of just fuck. I don't know. It's just great. But I distinctly, there's only a couple bands that I remember like where I was first time I heard them. Iron Maiden, Slayer. There's only a couple, and it's usually when you're younger. Because when you get older, everything just blends together. A million bands. But yeah, I remember distinctly hanging out in this guy's garage, in the summer. I think right when school went back. So it was still kind of warm out, drinking shitty beer. And these guys were in a band, and they wanted me to take pictures, like black metal promo pictures. So I won't divulge the name of the band. It's long gone anyways. So they lived in a little culvert, development area. And right in the center of at the end was a sewer grate. And if you walked about 20 feet in the woods, there was the outlet for us. Like, we're going to climb through the pipe, like what's his face from fucking Shawshank Redemption. We're going to climb to the sewer thing so we could take a picture underneath the storm drain, because obviously those are fucking immobile. So I'm like, well, if you guys want to climb to that shit, I'll snap a picture of you, but I'm not fucking going in that. So that's what they did. It took them like a fucking hour to get through it because it's obviously not designed for human transit. And I'm like, if they get stuck in there, I'm just going to get my car and drive away. Like, I don't know, maybe call 911 on the way out, but I'm not going in after him. So, but all that was preceded by listening to this album and drinking, I think, let's say Schaefer. I don't know. It was a shitty beer. It was definitely a shitty, cheap beer. Because that, being under 21, you just got whatever beer you could. There was no preference. Sure. I'm gonna get this distinguished whatever. No, if that's the beer that you could get someone to buy for you, that's what you fucking drank. So shitty beer, garage, storm culvert, climbing through shit, Shawshank Redemption, Dark Throne.
Quite a story.
Very interesting memory.
There you go.
No names are named, but I don't remember seeing those guys too much after that. But yep, and I don't even know what became of that photo. I'd love to see that fucking photo all these years later, but fuck it.
Then when you see the photo, you're like, well, what were we listening to there? I don't know, but it was a giant wall of fuck.
It was a giant wall of fuck. It's definitely dark room. Anyways, moving on.
All right, Chris Allo's pick next is School Days by Wasp from the
Wow.
first Wasp album. Chris says, I love that album. I have the 12-inch single with Painted Black on the B-side somewhere. How cool was Wasp back then? Guess so. I was never a huge fan, to be honest.
No,
Nah,
I liked them a lot when they first came out, but then I saw them with Slayer once, and then I was done with them.
Yeah, I saw them a couple
I think it was
times live.
inside the Electric Circus performance. I was like,
They never did.
I don't know if I'm minority on this, but they're one of those rare bands that I think their 90s stuff blows away the 80s stuff. Headless Children and Crimson Idol from like, I think gonna say 90 or 92 or 91, 90, whatever, early 90s. Like long past when anybody gave a fuck about those bands. Awesome heavy metal. Awesome fucking albums, yeah.
I'm gonna respectfully disagree.
Oh, I don't think you've ever heard those albums, Steve. I bet it.
I sold those albums when they came out. I heard
Oh, I think they're way better than the.
I mean, they weren't bad records, but I don't know.
No,
I like the first album better.
First album was
Yeah.
kind of fun.
Last Command.
Last Command I never liked. It's a little too hair metal, but first one's great. But yeah, those two other ones are definitely my favorite.
Yeah, you weren't around in the hair metal era.
Thankfully, I missed that.
You missed it.
All right. I actually wasn't planning on saying this next one, but I really liked Ryan's last story, and it reminded me of kind of an ongoing story that always happened like on either Friday nights or Saturday nights, because some of us, had like these jobs that we would work. Like we worked at a convenience store or, some bullshit like that. So we'd go to school, you'd come home, you go to work, and then, you'd be like, all right, what time do you get off tonight? It's like, well, I get off at 10. You want to go meet up at the Towers. And the Towers was this place up in the woods in the same development where Mr. Canzaneri currently lives.
Oh, wow.
And it was up, I don't even know if it's still there. That we're going back a million years here. It's still there? Okay. Well,
there's new towers there.
Okay. So there are these water towers.
The other day, and I got busted. They made me leave.
Okay.
Well,
we drive our cars up there.
They told me to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, well, they probably like. Do you know those vagrants that used to come back here in the early '80s? If you do, then yeah.
But
So
the first time I went up there, I saw those things, and I'm like, look at these pieces of shit, and we started like throwing rocks at them and stuff, and that's our water. That's what we drink here.
Yeah.
I mean, they replaced them now. Back then, I was like, oh shit, we stopped doing this.
So like so just so you guys can have a visual picture of this. So like it's up in this development in Goshen, and like it's up in like the back of this one road, and you go up and the road kind of ends, and then there's like a trail that leads up into the woods up to a hill, and at the top of the hill are these water towers, and there's like a little clearing around them and all these like big rocks and whatnot, and they're kind of like flat rocks. So but it's just weird because it's just like this clearing. So we used to go and we used to like bring beer there and bury the beer because we couldn't keep it because we weren't supposed to have beer because we were underage. But what we would do is we would all meet up there at night after we were done working our little jobs after school and stuff like that, and we would have like these big boom boxes. My buddy Steve had this giant boom box, and we used to like go up there and drink beer. In most cases, it was warm. We didn't care. And we'd stay till like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Get pretty hammered. And I remember specifically, there was a period of a couple months where we would listen to Born Again by Black Sabbath, like religiously. And I remember being up there, and just the moon is up. You see the towers, the trees around you. It's kind of creepy out. Sometimes we would start like a little bonfire, and we would be listening to like Disturbing the Priest, or Born Again, or Zero the Hero. Any of those songs on there. I'll choose Zero the Hero for this instance. But it just kind of like took you back, and like nobody else was around. So here we are in the middle of this whole development, and we didn't give a shit. We were just like, it was just us, the woods, the towers, and the moon. And the music, and that's
what road was that? Those towers off? You remember?
Upper Magic Circle Drive.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's probably 5 houses up there now that weren't there back when you were hanging up there.
Yeah.
that's not anywhere by Arcadia, is it?
Hamiltonian Park.
Okay. Oh, okay. So a little bit far away because I used to live over by close to there, but not quite there.
Now, see, in Hamiltonian Park, or no, in Arcadia, there were the pipes. That was another place that we used to hang out.
I remember where the pipes were. Yeah, I found those ones just like strolling around. Like, that was kind of cool. So they're still there.
They used to have keg parties there. Yeah, that was another spot. We had all these spots that we used to go to.
In
We even, had a
Middletown.
place, we even had a place in Middletown called The Spot. And
Where was that?
That was off
The
of
Spot.
Slaughter Road.
I'm Middletown. I don't know where that is.
Or maybe it may be Goshen, actually, right?
That's by
This
the
was
pit.
There was a place in Middletown called the Cow Jumps. And it's where it was out behind, like if you went at the fairgrounds and you went through Mechanicstown, there's a housing development there now. There was just these fields and they'd go out there and motorcycles. And I can still remember going out there with my duster. And I think that was after I was out of school already. So the soundtrack then was more like Hellbent for Leather, Stained Class. I had discovered Judas Priest and was hanging out all these kids out in the fields, and we'd race cars and people would race motocross.
I know this. I probably don't make no sense to people not from this area, but from us it was because where I was next to us was Pine Island. So they
Mm.
had all those black dirt fields, like they were just
Oh,
like
yeah.
these empty, these huge fields where they grow
Onion
Yeah,
fields.
onion fields. Thank you for the botany lesson. But there were these long abandoned roads that just went off like for miles and then just came to a dead end. So if you drove to the end of one of these roads, you were like 2 miles from any main drag. So you could just do fucking whatever, blast music, set shit on
Mhm.
fire, fireworks. And unless you were like as loud as like a Slayer concert, no one was going to show up, There was
Mm.
no cops within a freaking mile. So we used to do that pretty regularly, get stupid.
Mhm.
It's crazy when you
Seems
think
weird.
about it, because I mean, I know like the younger kids today probably don't even leave their homes, but I mean, back in the day, we used any excuse we could to go out and be with our friends, listen to the music we wanted to listen to, and of course, sneak some alcohol. And they were
Yeah,
places
usually in the middle of
everywhere.
nowhere. Or
You
as
could go
middle
park
of
your
nowhere as you
car
can
and-
get.
yeah, it's like,
Well, you wanted to get out of your parents' house so you could meet the girl or hang out with your friends, get buzzed. And
yeah.
if you didn't have a place like you guys talked about, the drive-in movie theater was the perfect spot. You'd grunge up enough money to go to the drive-ins and you'd be able to sit there and party for hours. It would start at dusk and usually there was one that went on to about 1:30 in the morning, triple header.
Why did I never think of that, Steve?
You never did a drive-in back
I
in
mean,
the
I
day?
did, but I went with like my parents or whatever, but I never went with the friends to the.
Oh, with
That's a perfect place.
girls or sometimes you're just with
Yeah.
your buddies. Let's get a
we
bunch of
we used to just
beer.
go to
and
abandoned roads.
Sometimes you wouldn't
That
even
was
watch the
the height of
movie.
That's what we
Just sit
did.
in the car and listen to tunes.
Open the doors up in the car, blast music in the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or in Middletown, like with the Speedway, we'd go to the races, which I still do. But that was another place to go hang out in the grandstands, drink beer, whatever.
Yeah. All right, Steve, I think we're back to you, right? Yeah.
We're talking about the Department of Youth here. It's like Alice Cooper. Since Sydney's not here, we were hoping she was going to join us tonight. Should I tell I'm going to tell the jukebox story because
Yes.
I think we've talked about this on the channel already. But yeah, we had a jukebox in Middletown at the high school, and the song I remember playing, I think I like it better than the one you had, but Stevie Wonder's Superstition would just play over and over and over again. And I still love that song, but I just remember, I don't know if the jukebox was broke or kids just played that same song over and over again, because you would just hear that over and over. And going back a little further in school, in my grade school in elementary, I went to Truman Moon School, which is right down the hill from my house here still, which I still live in the house my parents built. I can remember there was a day, I don't know if it was a weekly, my memory's hazy from God, how many moons ago that was. You would be able to bring a record, the one teacher would have his record player out and he would tell the kids to bring 45s. And I can remember it was probably around 69. And the rage at that time were the Jackson 5. I can remember it was like in my mind, it's like an episode of the Peanuts, like Charlie Brown, a special. Like they would put the record on and every kid would start dancing. It was a lot of this going on, you know? And then, you know, and everybody was listening to Jackson 5 and Temptations and Archie, Sugar, and stuff like that. But I think it was kind of like almost, it wasn't gym, but it was like, I don't know what it was called. It was like a recreation thing, and people would bring records in and play.
Pretty cool.
And that was cool. So there's my story about school. And I guess my number 4 is going to be Led Zeppelin. The song remains the same. The live album, of course. And I'm picking No Quarter off it. Another one that didn't leave the 8-track deck back then. And I had Zeppelin albums, but that one was played the most. I'm going that with a lot of live albums from that era. Were, like you said, they were kind of like the greatest hits.
Yeah.
You know?
No Quarter is a great choice. That to me that's my favorite version of that song from that album.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
I mean, rock and roll kicks it off and it's epic. And I don't care how many times PDH plays it, I don't give a shit. I still love the song.
I hate
But I
it.
don't listen to PDH normally. I do not listen to WPDH. I don't have to do it at work. I can see if someone is at a job and you play that, you're gonna get sick of these songs because they play the same. Sorry, Tig Man, but they play the same. What? I don't know. How many songs do you think they play?
It's
75 maybe. I don't know. It's not a lot.
Is that it?
More than 50.
You guys are really bad. 50? I think they probably got
I don't
like
think it's more than
200.
25. Every time I turn it on,
20.
it's fucking 3 songs. And,
Been a long time since a rock and roll.
actually, at this point, I think the FM station, it's really just car advertisements for car dealerships, and every now and then they'll throw like a Van Halen or Guns N' Roses in. Then
I
3
know.
more hours of fucking Subaru and Toyota dealership ads.
Last month or the month before, I was driving into PA to go to a dirt track race, and my phone, I need to get a new phone. The battery shot, so I had to like charge it, and I was stuck listening to classic rock radio, whatever radio, and it's always on Tuesday, so it's 2 for Tuesday, and you could always guess. It's like they're gonna play this one next, you know. But it's just as repetitive in a lot of other areas.
It's really bad when you classic, you know, not to get off tangent, but it's like you have like these classic rock radio stations. They play all the classic bands, but they only will play 2 or 3 songs from all these bands.
Mhm.
Same songs. over.
Maybe 5 if you're lucky.
Maybe 5 is depending on the band, right? Like someone like,
Yeah.
like the Stones or the Beatles or Zeppelin, you're going to get 5. But like there's like, you know, other bands, you get 2 or 3. That's it. No
That's
other.
it.
Mhm.
At my last job, there was a while ago because we never had music, and one day someone's like, we're gonna play music. I want to set up a stereo and play music." And I said, "If you set up a stereo and start playing like WRV, WPDH, I will smash that. I will smash that fucking stereo, and I'll go talk to the supervisor. I'll get it written up. I'll take my licks, but we're not gonna listen to that shit. Fuck that." So we ended up getting Sirius XM, which isn't much better, but you
It's a
can go
bit
to
better.
stations. It's definitely better. No advertisements.
Depends what you put on.
Yeah, there's different stations. If you get sick of
Like
one, you put
liquid metal actually has a decent variety, but Ozzy's Boneyard will play the same stuff.
yeah,
over
it's the
and over.
same. But we put on other
I mean,
stuff. I didn't even
it-
put on those. Like
Mhm.
I think in the year we had it or so, I put on liquid metal once and Ozzy's Boneyard like twice. We just ended up listening to different stuff. You know,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
kinds of stuff. I said, "There's no fucking way I'm listening to some dude screaming about deals at fucking Toyota all day. I'll smash that fucking thing." And so we got a better choice, but
I was shocked today because I was hanging at a friend's house swimming this afternoon, and you'll know who I'm talking about. Like people, Scal will, but all he listens to is XM radio.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he goes, "Steve, did you hear about this new band?" I'm like, "Who? Onto Others?" He's like, "Yeah, they just started playing them in heavy rotation." I'm like, somebody must have slipped the paycheck over, but good for them. But
They've
like,
been around
dude,
for a couple of years
I've
now.
known about them for 3 or 4 years now. I went to see
Yeah.
King Diamond because of them, but it's amazing. And I tell you what, I was a little surprised because I don't usually listen to that channel, and I was up there a few hours today. I was like, holy shit, they're playing European metal now on there, which they never did for the most part. Like they had Moonspell on there. I'm like, wow, things are changing a little bit because it used to just be more like that deathcore and metalcore on that channel. for a
Yeah, that's
while.
all I remember. That's why I never put it
Yeah.
on. But
No. Okay. Off subject again. I'm ad-libbing again. I'm sorry.
We're big on tangents today. All right, Chris, back to you.
All right. Well, I wanted to walk it back to the back road drinking spots. You ever get up to Hillcrest Manor? because man, we ran wild up there. It's where Legoland is now.
Yeah,
okay.
I know where it is. Yeah.
We probably had 2 months during our high school times where we were up there just doing whatever the hell we wanted until we ran into some old guy coon hunting in the middle of the night.
Oh shit!
But the guy's got a gun. What you do? You know, and he had his dogs with him, and he was probably like, they're gonna bust me, and we're like, he's gonna bust us and probably kill us because we, and so we stopped going. But man, we went fucking wild up there. It's insane.
Guns
Crazy.
and dogs when you're that age group and watching horror movies, probably not a great.
Yeah, it
Right?
freaked us out. But this next song has nothing to do with that. Let's kind of go in chronological order. This one, I went to college. I didn't know whether to bring my guitar with me. I ended up bringing it, and I was playing. And of course, some dude walks like, I play, and I ended up hanging out with this guy a lot. And he taught me how to play "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You" by Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
I cannot even remember how to even start playing it now. I don't remember any fucking single thing about it. But this dude sat down and showed me the song, which I thought was cool because I didn't play shit. Like I played power chords and I played freaking Louie, and I really didn't know anything about playing guitar. And this guy taught me a lot. His name was Bill. I can't remember his last name, but "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You." Every time I hear that, I think about freshman year in college, being on my own for the first time in my life, and learning that with good old Bill. Bill, if you're out,
Thank you, Bill.
yeah, you're a man.
Cool. All right, Ryan.
All right. So speaking of bands that were in high school, there was only one metal band that I remember when I was in school. They were called Deprivation. Don't really see any of those guys anymore. They were pretty good back in time. It was kind of like a Machine Head, Pantera, later Sepultura, just some like mishmash of 90s stuff. But the drummer, one day when I'm going to say 10th or 11th grade, I think this was 10th grade, he's like, "Ryan, you ever hear of this band from New York called Candiria from New York City?" And I'm like, "No." And being a drummer
Great
himself,
stuff.
he was like, "You got to check these guys out. It's like a weird band. They do a lot of shit." But his thing was the drummer. This guy is the greatest drummer I ever heard. And I will be honest with you. So the band I'm picking is Candiria. This is their second album. This is the one I came into them with. Beyond Reasonable Doubt from '97. It's still the band I've seen the most because back then in the late '90s, early 2000s. Yes, wow, indeed, Steve. Until the early 2000s, they play all the time. So I've probably seen them. More on the album numbers here. These are album numbers. I've probably seen them about 50 to 60 times.
Holy crap.
So wow. They just play a lot. And I'll tell you what, to this day, after listening to these guys for years and all the different stuff I'm into now, he's not in the band anymore. They broke up for years. They had some problems. They get back together. But the drummer on this album, or the first couple albums, Ken Schlock, is probably my favorite metal, rock, whatever drummer ever. Like this dude had like it was like the old jazz master, you're talking like a Buddy Rich style, like technique and level, Gene Krupa, but just like elevated into like a metallic hardcore setting. It was like super tasteful, small kit, beat the mother loving fuck out of those drums, hit like a hammer, but also with like that Neil Peart level of like timing too. Dude was just a monster. Like I watched him a lot and I just stand on the side and just watched this dude play drums because it was hypnotic. He was so fucking good at it. Very fluid, never slowing down, never rested, always doing something. And I don't know, they were just a great band. So I'm going to pick the song. So I'm rambling on them. First song on this album, Faction, because it's as good a representation of what they're all about as anybody. And because of these guys, a lot of the shows I saw back then were like just like local hardcore shows, like stuff I wasn't really into a lot of the other bands. Probably would never have gone otherwise. But these guys would just play anywhere with anybody. They didn't give a fuck. That's why I saw them so many times. They played in Poughkeepsie, New York, all over Jersey, all over, Albany, Kingston, all these local towns around here, Connecticut. So going with Candiria. And awesome show, awesome pitch. They always had the crowd going fucking wild. On their albums, they put jazz tracks in, they put hip hop tracks in. They do a lot of stuff. They wouldn't do any of that live. Live, it was just like the heavy shit. But you listen to the albums, you get a whole wide mix of stuff, instrumental, like experimental stuff, They
were definitely unique.
Yeah, it was cool. Great band. They're still around. They put out a new album. The new album's still really good. Yeah, it's real good. It's a little different. They've toned down some of the weirdness of the early days, but yeah, this album, Beyond Reasonable Doubt, awesome. So
I think I was with you and saw them at the Chance when they did their comeback because they had that horrific like accident.
Yeah,
On
they
the
were in a
road.
bad van accident.
Yeah, traveling on the road, yeah.
When they first came back, yeah, it was just one of those things where they ran off and they were lucky to be alive. And some of them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't remember all the details, but the
No.
first comeback show I saw was actually at CBGB's in
Okay.
2004, and the crowd was just fucking bananas. But then they played the Chants, and they played a lot. And
I
they
was
were
at the
on
Chance.
hiatus, and-
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, they were great band. Still awesome. If you have a chance to see them, I don't know if they tour much anymore. Not like the old days, but no. But I just remember him telling me, like, you got to check these guys out and listen to the drummer, man. He's like, check this dude's playing out. He's just like nothing I've ever heard before. And yeah, he's honestly probably my favorite drummer. And there's some great fucking drummers in rock and metal. There's some really talented guys, but this guy's style, you know, I think it maybe left an impression on me because when you hear stuff when you're younger, it kind of seeps in a little deeper. But yeah, Ken Schlack from Candiria, first couple albums, fucking awesome. So that is my fourth pick.
I bought a bunch of their albums and I never knew what to do with them.
It's just
Really?
they're I've had that conversation with a couple of friends. I was like, I love these guys, and I heard them like, I don't know. No, I'm
Yes.
like, all right, you know, that's fair enough. Yeah, definitely a love or a hated band.
Yeah,
Pretty-
you know, I liked it. I just was kind of like, all right, it's like some of it's really heavy. Then they break into this hip hop tune, and then they turn around and it's like Miles Davis, and it's like
yeah,
Mm.
they definitely exist in their
Hardcore,
own
it's
little
like-
universe. They were really
all over the place. Yeah.
They used to get compared to like a lot of the guitar playing. I always read it's like, oh, it's like Meshuggah because it had a lot of like staccato, like very, you know, a lot of that style. But I don't know. I never really heard the Meshuggah comparison, but I think I even fucking saw Meshuggah once. So I don't know. As it turns out.
Very unique.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, Chris Allo's next pick. Be Cruel to Your School from Twisted Sister.
Ooh.
And these are his words. Wow, this song sucks. What were they thinking? I always liked that they brought back Alice Cooper out of retirement, and the video with zombies is really cool. I think Tom Savini did the effects, but MTV banned the video anyway.
Did they?
I guess. I don't know. It's terrible.
Twisted Sister had lost me by then.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
As soon as they did Leader of the Pack, I was out the door, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, no good.
Like, well, no.
No good. So my next pick is it's funny because I think Chris and I talked about this kid. Well, he's not a kid anymore, he's our age, but not long ago. But anyway, I'm sure everybody had at their school, well, at least back in the day, you had the one kid who always brought the boombox in and always got busted for bringing the boombox in and had it taken away. But then like a week later, he'd sneak in another boombox, and, you know, no how big or small, whatever. And this particular guy named Brad always would, you know, we in between classes, like early in the morning, you'd have like homeroom, then first period, then second period. Between like second and third period, we would all meet like near where our lockers were. There was this one spot up on the second floor of the school, and we would have like 5 or 10 minutes, and we'd always hang out there and just kind of bullshit, whatever, the whole bunch of us. And he would always come walking up, hey fellas, you got to hear this. And he would pull out his boombox from under his jacket, and he'd have a cassette tape and he'd throw it in there. And I remember one day he threw it in there, and what did we hear? Electric Eye and the Hellion from Judas Priest for Vengeance. And I remember like thinking, we were like, you know, you only had a couple of minutes. So like, holy shit, this is great. You know, of course, we all went and bought the album right after that. But it's just like every other day he would play something else. And of course, I heard stories that all these cassettes and LPs that he used to show, he never actually paid for. So that's a whole other story, which I won't get into. But
Little 5-finger discount at Strawberries or something.
yeah. But yeah. But yeah, but he always had some kind of boombox or another, always was walking around with that. And always you could count on him to be playing some kind of cool new metal, because of course he went and got it from the local record store in Middletown, New York. And yeah. So
Wasn't my store, hopefully.
no, it was Record World.
Record World. All right.
Record World list, yeah. So, but yeah, Electric Eye and the Hellion from Judas Priest, Scream for Vengeance. That's my next pick.
Check out this new cassette I just lifted, man.
Yeah, man. I got 4 others where that came from. All right, Steve, back to you.
Is this the final pick?
I think so, yeah.
All right. So do you want me to do a couple of honorables, or you want to go all the way around the bend again?
Yeah, we'll go around the bend again, yeah.
All right. All right. So what do I pick for the next one? I'm going off the rails here. No, I guess I better not. I'll do that with honorable mention. I'm going Rush Hemispheres. Another one, we had seen the show, we listened to a ton of Rush in the car, and I probably shouldn't pick Hemispheres, probably should pick All the World's a Stage, but I'm going with Hemispheres. I didn't do my homework good enough. And of course, if I'm picking a song, I'm picking Cygnus X1, book 2. So why would I pick anything else on the album over that one? Not gonna. Getting more for my money.
There you go. There you go. Big epic track. Can't.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chris.
All right. This one, another boombox story.
Uh-oh.
By this time, I was in the Coast Guard, and I ended up going to sonar school with the Navy out in San Diego. And when you went to a training school in the Navy, they stuck you all in one room, and you all slept together, and you were a team, and blah blah blah. So our class was about 40 guys. We were all staying in the same, barracks room and bunk beds and all that. And my one friend had a huge boombox, and every morning he would throw on Decade of Aggression, that live Slayer album, their first live album, leave. And we had enough time every morning to get through Helloway's Antichrist and War Ensemble. And fucking Antichrist was like, it was better than coffee, man. It got us going every morning. And every single day, never got tired of it. Actually took energy from these songs, especially Antichrist. And that was awesome. So I love putting those on, especially when I'm, up early in the morning going somewhere, fire up that album and listen to the whole thing for a change. But the Antichrist is my favorite out of those three. So
it's a great song. Great pick.
Yeah, music can be like caffeine. It can definitely pick you up at certain
it
stuff.
really was.
Even at work still, I'll put something on. It's like, hey, you got all these boxes to do. All right. I'm off topic again. I put on Power Trip and we would get all the work done.
There you go. All right, Ryan.
The world wonders if Steve Keeler was ever really on topic.
Hey,
Maybe for a
bring me
minute
here.
back in
People love the ad lib stuff.
1982 for 5 minutes. Steve was on topic. Well, speaking of music to wake you up.
Never.
Speaking of that, so there was one album that I remember getting, and shame Nick's not on because he would concur these opinions. I don't know I didn't know him back then, but I remember hearing this album, and I'm like, there's just humans couldn't even play this. Like, there's no way this is real. This is just beyond the fucking pale. What's possible within recorded music. So I'll just get right to it. So the band was Strappy Young Lad, and this is their second album, City. So I heard this, and I'm like, it's like a nuclear explosion. It's just like, what the fuck did I just hear? But it's not raw. It's well produced. It's very musical. It's very tight. It's very cohesive. It's very well written. It's very catchy. It's just super, super fucking aggressive. So the song that I'm going to go with, because the first time I heard it, I'm like, I think my reaction was the name of the song. It's the third song, which is Oh My Fucking God. And if you go on YouTube and you listen to it, you'll see why. So I heard this and I had to show people, I'm like, I don't know what you've been listening to, but we need to stop and we need to hear this album because this is like, it's like a fucking nuclear explosion going off about 5 feet away. So this was Devin Townsend's band at the time. He did a couple albums after this, which are good, but to me, they just never had the impact of this, hearing this for the first time. Although his solo stuff under the different guises he did, I like a lot more going forward, especially the Ocean Machine album, which I know Nick talked about in another episode. Came out the same year, but this album, City, was woo. This was a motherfucker. So that's my first pick because I have very distinct memories of hearing this and showing people this album. Like, we need to sit down, you need to be seated when you hear this, and we're gonna play this, and I want to know what you think. And we just listen to the album, and I remember like the first time I heard it, it just makes you sweat. Like just sitting there, it could be a cold room, but it's the intensity, just break out in a sweat and like start grinding your teeth. Like, it's that kind of music. So number one pick for me is Strappy Young Lad.
Cool.
All right, Chris's is Teacher's Pet by Venom. And I'm going to read this
song.
exactly. It's a good pick. And he says, this is the best song about fucking your teacher ever.
I can't disagree. I think he's right. And the lyrics really spell it out too.
All right. So I'm gonna change what was my number one here because I thought of a better one. It's kind of sad when you think like a lot of these songs not only remind you of when you were going back to school and in school, but mine have a lot to do with beer, which is just kind of, that's the
Here we go with the
mindset I was
beer
in
again.
back in the day. So, my brother, out of the two of us, he was like the athlete. I was not. So my brother played soccer like all throughout school. And, like every day after school, my mother would have to take him to soccer practice or to a soccer game or something like that. So I always like kind of plan my weekly shenanigans based on, what was going on with my brother Rich's soccer schedule. So if like, my mother would be like, all right, so after school, I'm going to go and deal with Rich. You want to come? And we're going to go do it. I'm like, nah, that's all right. I'll hang home. So I would get home from school and I already know that mom and my brother would be around for a couple hours. So I'd plan ahead and I'd be like, all right, so if I'm not getting together with the buddies, I'm going to go home and I'm going to play some music and enjoy some of whatever I heisted from my parents' liquor cabinet the night before. Yes. So one of my favorite songs to listen to during these afternoons, it's amazing when you're that age, like you go and you drink a little bit, you catch a ridiculous buzz, and then by the time mom and the brother comes home, you're completely fine, right? But that hour and a half, 2 hour period, man, you had a blast. So I would go and I would pull out Made in Japan by Deep Purple, and I would play Child in Time at full volume after I had like, however many shots of whatever I was drinking, or two glasses of wine, or whatever I could scarf up. And I would sit and listen to Child in Time. I'd sit on the floor with both speakers on either side of me cranked up, and I would sit and I would scream along with Ian. I would air guitar along to Richie, and I would play whatever air organ. That doesn't sound good. Air Hammond to
Air organ.
I would play it over and over again. And then, by the time, 2 hours go by, I hear like, because I lived in the basement, I hear them walking back into the house. I'm like, okay, cool. I would drink my glass of water and I'd be like, hey, how was the soccer game? Or how was soccer practice? Fine. And I did this multiple times during the school year while Rich was off doing soccer stuff. So yeah, that's my number one pick. Deep Purple, Child in Time from Made in Japan.
That was my second pick off that album.
Yeah. All right, Steve, any honorables?
Yeah, Kiss Destroyer, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Four Wheel Drive, Are Not Fragile. I mentioned Cheap Trick Budokan, Nugent Double Live Gonzos, Frank Marino Mahogany Rush Live, Back to School by the Deftones. I've been thinking about that all night, but it wasn't something from my past. So, but we're talking back to school. Yeah, that could be the theme song of the episode. But I like your little story about sneaking liquor. I thought I was the only kid that did that.
We all did it, man.
I think everybody.
I got caught twice. I'll tell you a quick story. It's during the school years. One time I was having a party at my house. We had it all set up. My mother and father were going away. They were leaving me in charge of the house. I had all my friends over from elementary school, or maybe junior high, I think it was. But it wasn't elementary because I was drinking. So it's probably like maybe first year of high school, second year of high school. And we've got this nice party set up. So no booze, of course. What we did, we took the soda bottles, the 2 liters, and we poured like a quart of them out, and we poured vodka in the orange soda, and probably rum or something in the Coca-Cola one. We're all set for this party. And my father decides to go over and get a glass of orange soda. And he took the glass and he went, and then of course my mother looked out and they checked all the soda bottles and we got a dry party. And then they didn't leave the party then. It's like, we're staying.
Oh boy.
Another time we were skipping school and I came home. My mother was going to Albany. My father was up there, I think in the hospital. But I was staying here because I was doing stuff. And I had a girl and a friend of mine waiting across the hill that could see the house. They dropped me off. My liquor was above the refrigerator. My mother went, she took off. So we dropped me off. They go back and park up there. Back my mother comes because she forgot something. She opens the door and sees me on the step stool, opening Steve, and she screams, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?"
Oops.
And guess what? I went to Albany to visit my father in the hospital and did not go to school that day. It was a long ride to Albany for Stevie and Mom.
Oh man, caught red-handed, man.
So that was my two sneaking liquor stories from the high school
Oh,
years.
boy.
I hope everybody enjoyed my insane rhetoric tonight.
Oh man, we could talk booze stories from the 80s and 70s all day long, man. Jesus. Chris, you got any honorables?
You know, my old school, cool song. School's out. I didn't think we could get through the show without mentioning it.
You have to mention it.
Be the one to say it. You know, Hot for Teacher, good one.
Yep.
That's a good one. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I don't have really any more stories about my personal experiences that aren't, you know, everybody else listening to the same shit that I did. You know, Judas Priest moment, the Iron Maiden moments, and all that.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's true.
Ozzy and everything.
Ryan, you got any left?
Yeah, I got one. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna share any stories because we all did the same stuff. Believe me, everything you guys are doing, we were doing all that shit in the 90s. You know, same, you know, hell on wheels, drinking, boozing, hanging out places, trying to get stupid. But the one of the first bands I ever got into, actually, even almost before I got into metal, about the same time, but I was really young, was a metal industrial band called KMFDM. So this wasn't the first album I heard from them. This is from '97. This is I can't say the album title because that's the album title. It's just a bunch of symbols. It's like a ransom note.
Wow.
It's like an old Looney Tunes cartoon. You get bopped on the head and little bird starts swimming around, you know. But the first track on here was Megalomaniac. Has that wall sticker, you know. There was a store in the mall. It says lifetime music guarantee from the wall. For a store that went out of business 20 years ago. So if this goes missing, they ain't fucking replacing it for me.
Yeah, they're not giving me a new one.
Not give me a new one, yeah. So I better hold on to this one. Yeah, but no, I used to love these guys, still do. I went through a couple of years where I kind of fell off, but I came back to them, you know, the last 3 or 4 years, got real into them again. But yeah, I used to play this all the time. It's heavy, a lot of heavy guitars, but it's also got a lot of industrial. So it's I don't know. If you don't know any of this kind of stuff, I'd say the nearest comparison is 9 Inch Nails. Although it's not a very good comparison, that's in that general wheelhouse. So that's kind of what they're going.
Tracks, right?
Although I like these guys, yeah, Wax Tracks. I like these guys a lot more than 9 Inch Nails. But yeah, these guys this was their big. I mean, they're still going. They started in the early '80s. They started in like '82, '83, and they're still going today. But in the '90s, they had a couple of years when they kind of were, I want to say, a little popular. They're on a bunch of movie soundtracks and stuff. So this is one of their bigger selling albums. That's what I'm going with. The weirdly titled album came after the end from 1997, and the song Megalomaniac.
Cool. Yeah, I think the only one I really got left, and whenever I hear it, it takes me back in time, and this is another one of those like holy shit moments when you first heard a band for the first time, and like the news spread like wildfire through the school for anybody who was into like hard rock or metal, and that was Queen of the Reich by Queensryche.
Wow.
I remember specifically when that came out, man, everybody would like the next day, everybody was talking about, and that maybe not the next day because word and music didn't travel that fast back in the day, but in a short span of time, everybody was talking about this song and this band and that singer. Like every time you would, you know, be hanging out in the lunchroom or in study hall or whatever, or after school, before school, everybody was talking about Queen of the Reich and Queensryche and Jeff Tate specifically. And so whenever I do hear that EP and that song, it always kind of brings me back to like, you know, going back to school and, you know, what's the new hot band of the you know, the semester or whatever. And for that 1 year when that first came out, it was definitely Queensryche. So
I thought of one more thing if we got a second.
Yeah.
So we're talking school. Middletown High School, right below us, there was a department store called Lloyd's Supermarket.
Yep.
It was a super center, and it was like Walmart before Walmart was around.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
literally had everything in there. So there was a cool record department there. So I go down there, you know, my friends, you would be allowed to go there for lunch. Other than that, you were skipping school and the truant office would get you. But I go in there and I see this album cover. It's got a guitar flaming with a city on top, and it's called Boston. and I bought it unknown, took that. My friends made fun of me. They're like, why did you buy that? Who cares about that? It's like, and then I'm like, I discovered Boston in high school because my friends didn't like, and then a month later, it was playing out of everyone's windows in their cars. That album became huge from then. And I was like, I found it first. And you guys
bought it because the album cover was cool, right? Sight Unseen.
Yeah, that Sight Unseen album cover, which we had to do from the 70s till internet happened, pretty much.
Yep.
So I wanted to just add that one in there.
Cool. So, all right, there you have it, everybody. So some of our favorite songs that remind us of going back to school, whether it was grade school, high school, college, military, whatever, bringing back some stories and specific songs that take us back to school days. So down in the comments below, list some of your favorite songs that bring back memories of school, going back to school, being in school, getting out of school, saying F you to school, whatever it might be. Put them down in the comments below and visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. See you next week here on the Hudson Valley Squares. Tune in tomorrow for In the Prague Seat. We got Wednesday, What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility Day, new album reviews. Thursday, The Monsters Den. Friday morning, Martin Popoff's back once again. Saturday, the UK Connection. And we've got Ranking the Albums on Sunday. So till next week, for Steve Keeler, Chris Canzaneri, and Ryan Scow, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.